Hey, harmonic synchronicity here. So today I wanted to talk about something that I'm going to coin as divine intelligence. And so basically, looking in retrospect, looking back at my life, what I started realizing is when you follow your ethics and you follow your moral values and your intuition, you're led down a different path. And you start noticing that you're learning and realizing all these different things that most people aren't. And that's because you basically desensitize yourself when you compromise your ethics. You lie, you deceive, you cheat, all those types of things that you do that are basically going against your true core values. And basically people start lying at a really young age, and that's kind of gets you snowballing in the wrong direction, and then you start losing your sense of direction, your intuition, right? And you go down a different path. Okay. And anybody who knows anything about Bruce Lipton, he's a cellular biologist, and he's the first person to ever clone a cell. And what he ended up proving is that, like a stem cell, for example, could turn into bone or tissue or any one of the things that you need in your body, right? And what is it that's the determining factor that makes it turn into bone versus tissue or tendons or whatever, right? Well, what he realized, it was the environment. So based on the perception in the environment, the cell chooses to become a certain way, right? So you change the environment, you change the cell. He even took lactose intolerant cells and put them in a dish of pure lactose, and they ended up being able to metabolize it, right? So our perception of the environment changes the DNA. So the RNA rewrites the DNA through the observation of the environment, right? So however you perceive the environment is going to change your genetic expression in order to match that. And what I'm basically saying is this: when you follow your ethics and that love and that empathy, right, you're going to go down a different path, right? And when you go down a different path, you're going down a different environment. Therefore, your perception of the environment is different if you choose to be ethical or non-ethical. Because if you go down one path, it's going to be a different environment. Therefore, it's going to change your genetic expression based on that. So, based on my perception of reality and the outer body experience I had and everything, it seems to me that there's something that I would refer to as kind of like a fail-safe. Like how do you explain it? Like it protects. You have to be of a matching vibration in order to attain certain information. So if you're mature enough, you can access different information. It's like a fail-safe, right? How many times have you heard this? If you want to experience a certain reality, you have to match your vibration to it, right? So basically what I'm saying is that when you're in a loving state and you're empathetic towards other people and you treat people the way you want to be treated, what ends up happening is you're actually changing your genetic expression. And like you could look into Greg Braden as well. He talks about this because if you look at your DNA, it has coding sites, right? And the higher the frequency, the tighter the wave. But the lower the frequency, right, the longer the wave. So if you're in a low vibration, you're hitting less coding sites on your DNA. But if you're in a high vibration of love and empathy and all that, like you're hitting more coding sites, or you're activating more of your genetic potential, right? So once again, I think that this reality, whatever this reality is exactly, I'm not completely sure. I have a lot of, hypotheses, but it seems to me what's going on is when you follow your ethics and what's right, you get something what's called divine intelligence, because you're led down a different path. And when you go down that different path, you're going to learn different things. So for example, if somebody is all about them and they don't care about anybody else, and they'll basically trample over anybody to get what they want and where they want to be and whatnot, and just for status and ego driven means, I mean, that's going to lead you down a completely different path, and you're going to have a totally different life, basically, because what you're going to end up knowing will be completely different, like a completely different person. Okay, but here's the thing, here's the cool thing. Okay, at any given time, you can choose to change and become a more ethical person. Okay, so when you do things, you put a lot of thought into what you're doing, why you're doing it, what are the effects, because you're the cause, right? And when I had a lot of these outer body experiences, what I experienced is what I did, but from the receiving end, right? Because it's like, it's one thing you live every day and you're experiencing everything from your point of view outwards, right? But when you have these experiences, like people would die, like near-death experience, everything, basically there's situations, like each experience that you have out of your body will be different. Each time you're going to learn something different about yourself or other people or the universe or concepts about reality. But what you learn is your impact, okay? Because we have infinite repercussions, right? Even if you don't live on this planet forever, the things you've put into motion are in motion forever, right? So it's the old saying, like the butterfly effect, right? So everything you do does matter. And not only does it matter, it matters to infinity, because we live in an infinite realm, right? Infinite reality. So even after you die, I have suspicions that we might supersede that one day. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime, but I know that the possibility does exist, because each possibility exists. It's just, anyways, I'm not going to get into that, but it's interesting to think about this, okay? Because everything that we do, when you experience it from the receiving end, you start to learn more about yourself. Who am I really? And when I say infinite repercussions, I don't mean like it's a bad thing. Like a repercussion is like a reverberation, right? So what kind of vibes and repercussions and reverberations, cause and effect, are you causing? You get what I'm saying? So if we don't follow our ethics and we don't do the right thing, then it appears to me that when we die, and some of us experience it before we die, like if you have ayahuasca or anything like that, or outer body experience or near-death experience, or you meditate a lot and you have these experiences, because you're releasing so much DMT into your pineal gland, you're accessing higher levels of reality, right? So I don't want to make this video too long, but just to break it down again, everything that we do has infinite repercussions, and when we follow our ethics, we're led down a different path, we learn different things, and we attain if we follow our ethics, and we have a high moral code. And it's not about, and here's the thing too, it's not about what I think's right for you, it's about what you think is right, okay? So when because we're all growing, right? So you can't be too hard on yourself either, because we all make what are perceived as mistakes, right? But I call them pre-lessons. That's what a mistake is. The only time a mistake exists is between the time you make it and the time you learn from it. Once you learn from it, it becomes a lesson. So then it ceases to be a mistake. So that's why it's kind of like, okay, is time really real? Well, one thing is for sure, your perception of the mistake is not, it's based on time. Your perception that you're in a mistake. But once you learn from it, it's a lesson, right? And, so I wouldn't say that I'm the smartest guy, like when it comes to math and certain other subjects like that. But here's what I realized. If you follow your heart and you follow your dreams and you be the change you want to see, then you attain divine intelligence that's going to serve you the best and serve the universe and everybody else the best, right? So I think the idea is for us to follow our ethics and our moral code and give ourselves some leeway. Like when you make what you consider a mistake, or because you have like, let's just say you have like 5 choices you could think of making, and you make the one that you think is the best one at the time, right? And you find out later that, oh man, maybe the other choice would have been a better choice, and I would have yielded a better result. But the thing is, you have to give yourself leeway to grow, and you have to forgive yourself, right? You can't be, I know with ability comes responsibility, but you gotta give yourself some wiggle room to grow, and you gotta be forgiving towards others and yourself, and you gotta understand that consciousness is evolving, and you gotta give it some room to grow. Right? So don't be too self-critical, but do be critical. Do analyze what you think you know. Do analyze what you think, how you're affecting others and this entire society and this entire reality and nature, because everything we do, like I said, has infinite repercussions, right? So I'm going to leave it at that. And if you think that this is the coolest shit ever, because I sure fucking do, thumbs up. And if you want to be a pain in the ass to everybody and self-centered, and thumbs down. Peace out, people.